Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tuts, and today I'm going to be showing you a new CSS experiment. Now, what we're going to be doing is taking the functionality that you would normally get with a jQuery slide down, and we're going to be accomplishing that slide down animation using only CSS. Now we're going to do this with just a transition and some min height, max height, some padding stuff. So keep watching. We're going to show you how to do that right now. So what we have here is a basic starter page, sort of like what we had in the last video. Let's take a look at the HTML really quick. We really just have a header with an H1 up top. Then we have a main with an H2, and then a paragraph. Next we have an H4 that says accordion trigger, and a paragraph with the class of accordion. Okay, so now what we want to do is be able to have this accordion trigger. When you click on it, we want it to toggle whether this paragraph is being shown or not. So right now we can see that it is in fact being shown. Now what we're going to be doing is using a transition on the accordion paragraph, but you may have noticed that transitioning height with CSS just doesn't work. Well, luckily there's a cool little workaround that we can transition max height. Now with the combination of overflow hidden and transitioning that max height, we can show and hide this based on a toggle. Now we're just going to toggle the class with jQuery like we've done in the past, but we're not going to be using jQuery for the actual animation. So let's go ahead and modify our CSS. The first thing we want to do is create an open state, and now the open state will be what it is once we have it toggled on. So let's go ahead in our CSS. Keep in mind I'm not using Sass here. I'm just going to keep this as CSS like we've been doing. And when the accordion has a class of .open, then we're going to make sure it has some things. One of which, we're going to make sure it has padding of 20 pixels. Now this seems like I'm duplicating this, but I'll get into that in a second. And now we're going to make sure this has a max height. And now the max height has to be whatever the maximum height that this could be, because this is how high, not how high it's going to open, but how high it could open. So if we smush this down here, let's say on mobile, this is what it's like, more at a reasonable height. You can see that this paragraph is going to be pretty high. It's going to be, it looks like 320 pixels high. So let's count on this being a max height of something like 400 pixels. So like I said, at this state, it's not going to be 400 pixels tall ever, but the max height is not going to make it that tall. It's just going to say it has the possibility of getting that tall. So let's go ahead and say max height of 400 pixels. Okay, so the open state has a padding of 20 and a max height of 400 pixels. Now, let's add some things to the non-open state so that we can see what it should look like when it's closed. Now, we have a padding of 20, however, that's going to be a problem, and I'll show you in a second. What we need to do here is add max height again, and we want to add a max height of 0, because when the accordion is in its normal state, it's going to be closed. So the max height of 0, you don't see a lot of changes. What we need to do next is add an overflow of hidden. Now with an overflow of hidden, you can see it's actually cutting off the content and not just resizing the background. But we also notice that even though we said that max height is 0, it still has some height. And if you were to check that height out, you'd notice that it was 40 pixels. What max height doesn't take into account is padding. So we have 20 pixels of padding here. What we want actually is we want, when this is in its closed state, we want the top and bottom padding to be gone. But we want the left and right padding to be there, so we can say 0.20. Okay, so we're now in a state of closed. This accordion is no longer visible. However, you can see that if we come into the HTML though and add a class of open here, it's back. So let's go ahead and delete this class of open. Okay, it's gone. Let's come back into our CSS, and we have one last thing to add to our CSS. It's going to be a transition. Now this transition we want to have be on everything, because we want this to be the padding, we want it to be the max height, and we might even do some other things in a second too. So let's just say all, and then it's going to happen over the point of 0.2 seconds, and then we're going to say ease just to make it a little bit smoother. And now let's go ahead and add our toggle. So in another video, we showed you how to add a little jQuery toggle. In fact, let's go ahead and add something to our CSS really quick, or our HTML really quick. We're gonna add a class of Accordion toggle to this H1, or this H4, just like that. Simply because we can now target this with jQuery. Okay, let's come into our jQuery, and like you've seen before, we do $ parentheses and then quotes, and then we do dot accordion toggle, accordion hyphen toggle, and what that does is it captures the accordion. It says we are now working with the accordion, and we're going to be using the method of on, and on, the first parameter it takes is click within a string. The second parameter it takes after a comma is a function, so we type function. Let's actually give this code some more room here. We type function, then parentheses, then brackets, finish it off with a semicolon. Okay, so inside of our function is what happens when we click. This statement says, all right, something happens when we click on the accordion toggle. What happens? So now we need to find the accordion simply by doing $ parentheses quotes, and then period accordion, just like that. And we can do it a toggle class, and then in quotes, the class we're going to be toggling is open. So like I said, we're not actually doing the animation with jQuery, which is nice because we don't have to rely on jQuery for anything presentational. It's simply turning a class on or off. That way, if we didn't use jQuery, if let's say we wanted to write this in normal JavaScript, or we wanted to use another technology like Angular or something, you could toggle the class with any of these other technologies and this animation would still work. Okay, so we now have saved this. Let's give this a try. And now when we click our accordion trigger, you can see that our content slides up and down perfectly like that. Cool, awesome. And if you want to add a little bit extra nice flair to this, what we can do is actually give this some opacity change. So if we were to say accordion opacity 0 when it's closed, and then when it's open, we could give it an opacity of 1. And since we have the transition on everything, we're going to get a nice little fade in on the actual content when we trigger this now. And you can see it comes in like that. It's a nice little effect. Cool. And if you don't like that opacity and you just want it to be a standard style accordion, you could always just remove the opacity changes here. So we now have an accordion trigger, and what's really cool about this is it's totally flexible. We could have this trigger anywhere we want because the jQuery is just looking for a trigger and looking for a paragraph. You can style these no matter how you want. You can make it look like a drawer or anything like that, or you could just have it a simple trigger that opens up this content. So check it out. This is how you do a slide toggle or an accordion action using CSS for the animation. So as always, this is Scott with Level Up Tuts. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment in the video below or hit us up at Twitter or Facebook at Level Up Tuts. You can always check out the leveluptuts.com and check out Level Up Pro, which is the subscription service for Level Up Tuts. So with Level Up Pro, you can download the videos, you can have code examples for the CSS experiments, and we're even going through and doing the back catalog to make sure those have code examples. There's a private forum. You get an ad-free experience on leveluptuts.com. There's even a 2-hour SAS Mastery course, which is similar to the SAS videos that I have on Level Up Tuts, but it was made special for the Tuts Plus marketplace, which no longer exists. So now I'm able to bring that to you as part of the Level Up Pro package. So sign up for $8.99 a month or $95 a year, and just check it out. Help support Level Up Tuts with Level Up Pro. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.